You don't. Hold on. Wait, we gotta move the boxes. 1 second. Oh, oh, there we go. How am I supposed to get stuff done when you're streaming? Think of it like a co-working session. uh, Hello everyone. I'm really tired. So I've got some coffee, but I think I've been doing a lot of home labbing and software stuff lately. So I'm a little tired. But the home lab is like the best part. Also, it's nicely scoped. So that kind of helps. Today, I think hair looking good today. Ah, thank you. I, I'm getting to that point where I probably have to cut it. It's starting to do the flips at the bottom, which is usually my sign, but I do kind of like when it gets long. Um, where were we? We had kind of we spent all of last stream trying to figure out user management, which led me down this rabbit hole. I'm now the proud owner of system administration. Mine's past my shoulder blades. Ooh. I used to keep it very long when I was like in middle school and stuff. It's been a long time though. Hello, hello. Hey, Parkerman. How's it going? Missed last stream because I was away in Japan. That's exciting. How was Japan? How long were you there? Did you go with friends? Well, what's the deal? How do you feel about user management now? Not much better. I didn't get that far through this or through user management as a concept in general. I have some understanding, better than last week, but I think what we're going to do is just spin up Kanidm and see if we can use it to make some POSIX characters. Why are they characters? Make some POSIX users on on a machine on the network and just learn about the experience by doing. I've got the chapter for PAM and LDAP stuff bookmarked, so I'll be reading. I'll be getting through that. But today, I think today's about doing, because me reading on stream probably not going to be the most thrilling thing in the world. So I think we'll come up with a way to spin up Kanidm on Nix and then use it to do something. Now, given our, you know, do you recommend the system admin book? Do you recommend this one in particular? I don't know yet. I haven't gotten that far into it, but I recommend a book. Okay, now now we're on a rant. I recommend at least a book. Um, every time I've taken the time to go through a technical book, it's made a significant difference in my understanding. My first experience with this was when I was deep diving Vim a little bit more. I've been using Vim for a long time, like 10 years now, and I didn't know what I was doing for a lot of those years. Like I was just sort of bouncing around, watching YouTube videos, mostly installing plugins and pressing J a lot. But I read what was it? Practical Vim. I think that's another O'Reilly book. The O'Reilly books are generally a good start, right? I read that, and all of a sudden, all of these things that would happen while I was using Vim that I needed to just like nuclear quit out of, right? Became useful tools. Like the fact that Vim has a built-in terminal emulator that you can just spin up and do things in, which is awesome. Uh, Vim, like the what is it called? The action window or the action list or something? Quick fix list. That's the one. Super super useful. There's a lot of really cool Vim stuff you can do. You don't learn this unless you read the book. Um, Clean architecture was also really good for me. Taught me to think about architecture systematically, even if I'm not like all in on the Uncle Bob strategy. The important part is it's at least one way to systematically think about systems. And I think going through a Unix book will be useful. AI viewers at twitchmax.com. Wow. That's what I need. I need AI viewers. That sounds like a ton of fun. Why? Sorry, there was a Twitch chat comment that ads. Anyways, so yeah, I don't know about this particular book yet, but definitely I think there comes a point where reading the book is such a significant leap in your understanding. This usually comes after like a couple of months of doing a thing that you read the book and it just crystallizes all of this like stuff that was floating around in your brain from all this doing. And so I'm a big advocate for books. Okay. Um, let's see. 2 weeks with friends and my partner. Amazing trip. Highly recommend. Great food, awesome history, but damn hot for my Canadian ass. I feel that. I think I would die in Japan. Like the heat would kill me, especially in the summer. Hit up Tokyo, Kyoto, Okinawa. That sounds awesome. That sounds really really cool. Avoid the AWS training on the matter. The Google training is pretty good. Oh, okay, interesting. Poor discoverability is bad program design. I agree. Are you live on Twitch too? I am indeed. Yes, I decided to try dual streaming. Um, we'll see how it goes. It's kind of interesting. Hey, you moved over to Twitch. Hello, hello. Welcome from the Twitch side. Also, I get to ban at least one stream. It seems, yeah. Yeah, I thought it might be fun to try streaming on Twitch as well. I feel like for streaming there's more opportunity to kind of like grow on Twitch, and honestly, like I mean, I do not make enough YouTube videos these days. I really want to, but it's just I'm tired all the time. Like I'm home labbing, I'm working on software and the business and planning a wedding, and oh god, just so many things. Fun things, delightful things, just many things. Good evening. A lean frisch one is good. It lists laziness as a virtue. Okay. Oh yeah, that's the one I've got. Okay, lovely. Laziness up to a point, of course. Of course. Not announcing over here on the Discord means you often like the viewers to gain more people on Twitch. That's a good point. I should probably not announcing over here on the Discord. Yeah, I'll drop a Twitch link over here. Also, you can try Twitch. We'll throw that out there. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, like when they say laziness, what they mean is an unwillingness to repeat manual procedures that could be easily automated. Uh, right? It's more like write a Perl script instead of doing boring manual work. Yes, exactly. Perl equals showing how old the book is. Yeah. Uh, there are some funny things in the book that are quite aged. But that's fine. I mean, if I wanted like a lot of Unix, the important Unix things haven't changed that much, and the things that have, there's good documentation that I can gain access to, right? What I need is fundamentals. Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Twitch side of things. Yeah, like so I feel like something that's a little outdated like this, probably a good idea to try that out as my like foundations, and then if I want to learn about the specifics of System D, then I can do that with some documents. Floor gang, yeah, it's fun down here. It's comfortable. And I'd rather write things almost every time, and that's why you're on Nix. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I also tend to prefer writing a script because I can at least look at it. I find often what I do, if I'm not explicitly writing a script, I'll have a markdown file where I'm putting the commands that I plan on running in sequence, and then I end up copying them, which is like one hop away from an actual script, you know? OpenRC over systemd. See, I mean, I don't have an opinion on this. I wasn't around Linux before the systemd decision, and so systemd is just a tool, right? And to me, it's just the tool that the vast majority of distributions use, and so I plan on learning it. So much gets written in TypeScript and Rust. Python and Bash are the devil. Yeah, well, I mean, Kairos is written in TypeScript, and I started dabbling in writing my own agent harness in Rust, because I was like, the thing that stopped me from writing Rust was I just didn't want to take the time to learn how to write Rust, the language. But I'm like, my agent does that, you know? Like, I can take advantage of all of the amazing things like Rust does, and the tooling around Rust and the security of Rust and like all of that without ever having to learn how to write Rust. So that's interesting. If you try OpenRC, you don't even need to understand. You will instantly know how much more lightweight and more speed it has. Um, does FreeBSD use OpenRC? Because I've used it's just like RC scripts, right? Because I did S6 lately. You can try OpenRC on Alpine. Yeah, I'm not diving that deep into the weeds right now. I think at some point maybe. But playing around with init systems, not on the docket currently. It sounds like fun, but yeah, there's just like so many projects, and it makes me wonder, like, what would I gain in a practical sense from playing with init systems, other than like knowledge of how Unix systems boot, which is valuable in its own right. Um, but my home lab is a series of long-running systems, right? So boot time isn't really a thing that matters. And then so many, like the vast majority of systems are running system D. So if you're administrating, like I do, a lot of EC2 instances, right? Um, then just knowing system D is useful. I mean, it's somewhat unfortunate because there's so much like fun, cool stuff to explore in Linux and the Unix world as a whole. But a lot of being good at kind of enterprise systems administration these days is just knowing how to deal with like Ubuntu on an EC2 instance. you know? I started getting into the whole home lab thing, but I haven't actually set anything up yet or really know how it works. I'm a software engineer, so I have knowledge with tech, but never been good at systems admin. Seems like a great time to dive deeper into it. It's super fun. Welcome to the club. It's a great time here. I think you'll have a lot of fun. It's really cool. Like if you have a tendency as a software engineer to wonder what's under the hood, if you like kind of terminal driven tools, if you like Vim over like big IDEs, it's a good indication that you're going to have a lot of fun with Linux, and self-hosting. That was kind of my bridge in. I was doing a lot of like ricing on Arch Linux systems, and then you know just kind of got went to town on it. I mean, my init is fairly fast even under systemd, but it's also tuned pretty tightly. About 11 seconds cold boot. Most of that is the desktop spinning up. That's pretty cool. One of these eventually I'll make the leap to a framework. Maybe once this MacBook ages out or something, and then I'll run like some really fun custom thing like NixOS thing as my main developer system. That'd be cool. I think a lot of my unwillingness to customize systems comes from the fact that the configuration never feels particularly durable to me. But NixOS solves that problem. So all of a sudden I'm like, maybe I will customize this system. I used to do a lot of distro hopping, so I never think of developer machines as particularly durable or long lasting. So I don't like to do a lot of configuration. I mean, I used to, but these days I'm like, just give me a system that works, and I need tiling window management and the shell. I'm good. But with Nix, you can just store the config, so I could go buck wild. Yeah, I know. Nobody's a huge fan of Ubuntu. But if you're administering systems, administering, it's not administering. If you're managing a bunch of Linux systems in enterprise, it's like Amazon Linux and Ubuntu, right? Like it's the least sexy things, right? And it makes sense, right? Like Ubuntu makes a lot of promises to companies that are running infrastructure on Ubuntu, right? They're a company that can provide support. Same with like Red Hat and that kind of thing, right? So, you know, I just rented a DEDI and set up Proxmox on it. Spin up a VM on it just to learn. That's awesome. That's fantastic. I mean, that's Proxmox was one of the first things I tried out when I started like, making content and stuff. And I've got my Proxmox box going, and it's been a trusty companion. You have not gone astray with your Proxmox box. Your Prox box, if you will. I wondered what was under the hood until I had to stop myself from joining Tiny Tapeout. Yeah, that's pretty far under the hood. I don't know what Tiny Tapeout is, but I assume. I've never understood kernel, Unix, and all of that. I mean, it's a deep rabbit hole, right? And like, this is a nice way to get started. I feel like if you try to just understand Unix without building anything and having to support anything, you're like, the motivation isn't really there because the understanding isn't buying you anything, right? But when you start home labbing, then understanding buys you an understanding of your of the systems that you're running to host your own services, right? And so it makes it valuable to you. That's been like the really cool part, because there's this part of the back of my brain that says like, I would love to understand Unix TM, but like, you got to make that desire and that need concrete. Home labbing does that. Still prefer a Red Hat. Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That's totally fair. I tried out Omni Window Manager on my Mac. It works pretty well with the Neary layout. Oh, cool. I haven't seen that. I've been on Aerospace, and that's been serving all my needs, so I haven't moved anywhere. You switch distros more often than I reboot my machine. But it depends. But depends if exec to a new kernel counts. Nah, that doesn't count. Tiny Tapeout is collaboratively buying space on silicon to print your own chip designs. That's really cool. Okay. When you say homeland, what do you mean? Do you need a physical at-home server? I wouldn't say, like, you can home lab in degrees, I'd say if you've got like a VPS and you're doing a bunch of stuff on that, yeah, that's home labbing. Like, I don't know. If you're managing your own systems, that's home labbing, even if it's on somebody else's servers to some degree. You're still managing the server. I would say it's like more home labby if you own the server at your own place. But I'm not gonna gatekeep home labbing. Like, whatever gets you started and has you having fun, that's pretty good. VPS is more costly. It can be, but I mean, it's more costly over time. But if the choice, especially right now, right? If the choice is spend $300 on a mini PC to get started, or $10 a month on a VPS, fair enough. I think I'm pretty open about these things, right? Whatever gets you going and started on the journey sounds like a good time to me. One of the big reasons many people do it is the control, and how much control do I have if someone else controls the machine? Yeah, right. So there's some amount of, quite a bit of agency that you lose if you're not like owning the machine, but you still gain a lot. If you have a VPS that's hosting some services that you make use of, that's certainly more agency than, like, let's say I'm hosting an OIDC like auth thing, right? If I'm hosting that, that's more agency than if I'm using Google as my my authenticator, right? So, Tiny Mini Micro is about Project Tiny Mini Micro. You can throw $30 on a junk old office PC. That's true. I haven't done a lot of the like deep budget stuff, right? Like I've never kind of gone looking for like old hardware that I can just pick up. So I don't know what's on the very lowest end of what you can kind of scrap together price wise. So $30, yeah. If you can find a little PC to start doing stuff on at home, that's awesome. Pay $150 per month per VPS for mine, but they don't replace a home lab. Yeah, yep. I agree. Okay, so Today, I think we're just going to try to get Kanidm up and running. I'm hosting Jellyfin on a VPS since I was living abroad for a while. That's cool. Made it accessible to my family and myself from wherever. Made more sense. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So, I haven't I haven't really taken a crack at the, wait. I haven't taken a crack at this since last we spoke. So we got some catching up to do. I need to remember where we are. I was showing off AI stuff to my fiance's sister, which was fun. Okay, do I have A-T home lab? Aha! I was doing a lot of messing about with harness things, which has been fun. Yeah, I think I was overwhelmed by how many things we were looking at last week, right? We were trying to solve every problem before it came up, and I'm realizing that I just need to solve one problem at a time. Over and over again, I am reminded all I need to do is solve one problem at a time, right? So why don't we do that? Another thing I'm realizing is I was using this. Oh yeah, the new DeepSeek harness does look really interesting. I'll take a look at that. Hey, how's it going? It's going well. It's going well. Thanks for coming by. Cake Imaginary. Just helped you chase up the ladder. Yeah. Okay. CA to start, but that's a certificate authority. Man, then I need to start learning like DNS things and stuff. I feel like almost no matter where you start, you're starting something else could have been done first. And I feel like I just need to go. I just need to do something, you know? One thing that frustrates me a bit on my Ubuntu server is when I install something like a Docker Compose, I feel this feeling of the images writing files to locations on the machine that, if I delete the Docker Compose later, will clutter the machine because I don't remove those files with it. That's a good sense. That's a good sense to have. Like, some people don't, I don't know. I've noticed this. Some people don't have a feeling of cruft accretion. You know what I mean? Like, and then their systems just get bogged down. The fact that you care about that is probably a good sign that you're gonna enjoy home labbing. And yeah, no, you're cut out for this. You're gonna have a great time. Okay. So I've been using this as a test. Cruft is the biggest NixOS thing for me. Yeah, I'm super excited about the fact that like it's almost impossible to not detect Cruft, you know? I've been testing out SpecBase on this home lab. And SpecBase, I've also been testing on Talos, which is my new kind of the harness I'm working on, which has nothing in it yet. The structure works really well for software, which is what it was built for. The structure being like I have a couple of categories of specs like agents, architecture, ops, behavior, and so on. It does not map well in the home lab, which I kind of expected, but I wanted to see if it would. So one thing I'm going to get to business on at some point is adjusting these specs. Are you opening that NeoVim inside of VPS? No. This is just on my Mac. I just like to run Tmux. Tmux just helps, you know? Okay, cool. So what else do we have? We got some ideas here. We're sort of exploring. What's the idea document we have? Oh my god. I'm going to have to clear some of this up. No wonder I wanted that Kanban board. This is working. I don't need this anymore. Yeah. Micro VMs on Nix, NixNAS. Yeah, that's going to be fun. ForgeO, ops dedicated testing and CI builder. We do want to do that later. Ops use Nix tests for oh, we've got something like that. Right, cool. So this is where we were playing. This is where we were playing last time. Running local Vikunja is so awesome. I have an MCP server into it. Nice. Yeah, I've been thinking about how to do my project management. I haven't really made a lot of decisions yet. I have like a thing about project management. It kind of scares me. For those of you who don't know, I like to describe myself as a recovering productivity bro. It's like I think my tagline on my website. Um, and so anytime I think about like project management, I get kind of like triggered. I'm like, oh God, am I going down some productivity rabbit hole again? And I don't want to do that. But I have a bunch of projects. Tracking some of those tasks and ideas will be useful. So eventually. Okay. So I think what we'll do is let's just explore Kanidm. The key for me was to make my agents do the project management. Yeah, okay. I'll think about that. We'll see where Talos gets me. Because I can get into like a whole bunch of fun. Like, I am really looking forward to building my own harness. And one of the things is I can start to plug in Quadrant and other tools and really understand how it works. But that requires me building it really slowly. I don't want my harness to do that. I mean, what I'm thinking is if I know my harness well, right, then I can make decisions about what it handles, what it's delegated to, how it handles MCP at all, how context is managed. Like for me, this is a looking under the hood thing, right? For me, harnesses are a black box. Context management is a black box. All of this stuff, right? I don't understand it. I have some basic understanding of LSPs, right? Like I took a compiler's course. I have a basic, or even with the features of Vim, for example, I have a pretty strong understanding of how my editor works. The harness is another editor essentially, right? Like it's a primary tool for software development now, and I don't know what it does. And that's just not okay, you know? I mean, to some degree, right? Like I'm happy and I like asking questions and all of that, but like some amount of it just needs to be like you need to sit there and do, right? Or build to really come to an understanding. So and then also I just want to build something called Talos because it's fun to name things after Greek myths. And own things, you know? Have your own software. So, okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do we're just going to do one of these. And we're going to point it at my ideas. What's this one called? Plan features. We haven't really. Do we not have a dedicated idea for this? No. Okay. I'm thinking about using Kanidm for user management in this home lab. I want to test it out to learn what it feels like to run it. So the goal today is to launch it on the NAS here and then see about setting up a single POSIX user on either a VM or the NAS. Whoops, NAS itself. Not sure yet. We have two ways I'm considering running Kanidm, a micro VM or Nix native containers. Which one? Oh yeah, I'm just using this free AI. Whatever OX Alpha is, I think a lot of people are thinking it's GLM 5.3 Air, but I'm loving that it's free. For now, at least. Feels like every week there's just more free AI. It's crazy. I really need to give Quen 3.8 a try, the 27B. It runs pretty slowly on my MacBook, though. So I'd have to try it through OpenRouter and then see about, do we dedicate a graphics card to it? Do I have graphics card money? You know? Well. There's already a decided architecture doc. Is there really? Hmm. I don't know. Is this under changes? No. Specs, architecture. We have testing isolation. Yeah, no, that. Also, Quen 3.8 27BQ4 runs quite nicely locally on a 16 gigabyte card. Yeah, okay. So I don't have a spare 16 gig card, but I was running the Q4, like the I was running Q4 via MTPLX on my MacBook. I was getting about 12 tokens per second, which is like fine, you know. I'm not like stoked to use that experience like UX wise, but it is promising, especially if they put out one of those like 35B models again. Fine for agentic work, set and forget. Yeah, but then it's running on my laptop, which is kind of annoying. I don't like having my laptop open and running because then every time I walk past the office, I kind of take a little glance, and I'm finding that like knowing that AI is running, I have this thing running in the back of my head. Did you use dflash attention or sage attention? I think dflash. I think dflash. Okay, cool. I'm definitely going to have to refactor the specs. I think this split is confusing. And I think it's confusing because every time I want to develop a feature, I'm like, where does the spec go? And there's no clean answer. And that's just bad. It's better to have no categories than categories that are wrong. So I'll spend some time with that at some point, but I think I will be taking the rest of this week off of software-y things other than my day job. I've just been like I have like AI fatigue, man. It's just like every week there's a new model and they're always better and like you got to be on that and I'm like the AI guy at work now, which is phenomenal, right? For my career. That's a fantastic place to position yourself. It's just exhausting. Okay, grounded myself in 3 places. Awesome. Yes. Yep. NixNAS service hosting shared identity. Right. I love that it finds my idea docs. For those of you who don't know, I've been building off of like a fork of OpenSpec, and I had this very simple ideas folder that you can just like store stuff in, because why not, right? And in my head, it's kind of like a Kanban board. I tried building the Kanban board. Well, I tried getting AI to build the Kanban board. Do you want to see how awful it is? Look at this. It's not good. It's really glitchy. So that's something to it exists kind of. But I think of ideas as kind of like a folder to store a bunch of stuff I'm thinking about, you know? That can be turned into specs and then actioned on in the repository. Your idea doc already decided this. That's correct. Nix native by default in spawn, wrapping NixOS modules. MicroVM was only chosen for house because it can't boot appliance images. Daily auth equals Kanidm passkey. Okay. Oh yeah, I also got it. This is why I use Vicuncha. Yeah. I really like the OpenSpec and that experience, and I liked the project being housed in the repository. That I found really quite nice. I'm thinking what I might want to do is have like a development server, right? Just like a dev box that I do all the work on in SSH into, and then from there I could run an agent like Hermes or one that I build myself, right? And then I think what I want to do is have like a central project management thing that goes into all of my work repos and grabs the sort of spec state and use the specs themselves as kind of like the project management, and then use and then it sort of tracks all of my separate projects. That's the vibe that's forming in my head. I think some company reached out to me and was like, do you want to have one of our mini PCs if you make a video about it? And I was like, well, I've been thinking about making a video about how I'm thinking about hardening a Nix developer box with an agent running in it. And because I've been reading Essential Systems Administration, I was like, if you want to harden the system a little bit, if you're letting agents run amok in it, you could just run it in a specific agent user, you know? That sounds pretty cool. And then they recommend this little logging software called Plod that was just like adorably Unix, like old, just happy Unix. And I thought you could instruct the AI to use Plod to track itself, and so I could be like observing what it does through Plod. Anyways, that's an idea I'm thinking about. Kinja is so light, I just run it on my own machine. I'll take a look. Okay, hosting mechanism Nix native by default. Yes. Okay. So the micro VM versus container question isn't really open for Kanidm unless something changed your mind. Let me stress test that lean anyway, because Kanidm has properties that make the choice more interesting. Okay. Isolation Kanidm is state rust, no kernel depths, data settable on ZFS, right? Declarative in your flake, virtual Ethernet bridge, boot time. Okay. Container down equals service down. VM crash equals service down. Honest argument for micro VM here. Kanidm holds every credential you'll ever have, so max isolation is defensible. Yeah. The honest argument against it, it's internal only. Netbird gates network entry. And a second kernel means a second thing to rebuild, upgrade, reboot during... I mean, that doesn't bother me that much. Right? Like, this doesn't seem that bad. TLS from minute zero. No HTTP mode. You need a... Oh. Well... Thanks, Sarah. You mentioned a certificate authority earlier, and now I'm seeing why. Hello, Nathan and gang. Hello. Hey, Tim. How's it going? You need a CA server cert before anything works. With your LE wildcard DNS01 plan, this is solved eventually, but for a first boot, you'll want a quick self-signed or small step style CA just to get up. The admin model is deliberately split. Okay. POSIX is not LDAP style. Yeah, I still need to read up on LDAP and stuff. Clients run Kanidm Unixd that cache locally. No direct server queries at login time. Consequences. Every POSIX machine needs the Unixd package. That's fine, right? If we're running a bunch of Nix machines, that's not a problem. GID numbers auto-allocate into that range. Huge numbers breaks Podman non-root sub-UID stuff. Interesting. And Samba does not consume them. Yep. Domain name is sticky-ish. There's a rename procedure, but pick the final one now. I see. Well, I guess we're doing certificate authority things. How do we do that? Tell me more about how we do certificate authority things. I used one in the past. Like Let's Serve or something like that. But I really know next to nothing about this. So we're digging deeper. Let's encrypt. That's the one. Okay, the user wants to explore certificate authority options for Kanidm in their home lab. Explore mode, blah, 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 blah. Kanidm server itself, TLS required. Kanidm clients, verify the server cert. Okay, let's encrypt. Real publicly trusted cert. Issuance talks to public DNS provider. Resolution stays internal. Okay. Issuance talks to public DNS provider. Resolution stays internal. Their doc already says this is viable. Pros. No client CA trust distribution. Every device already trusts ISRG. That is nice. Cons, renewal automation needed. That's not a problem. I remember doing the Acme stuff. 90-day renewals. Wildcard means any subdomain leak equals cert leak. Actually fine. Yeah. Okay, I think we're going to end up down the Let's Encrypt rabbit hole. Just trucking through Naboo, my agent's name stuff. Nice. I know Naboo is one of the Home Assistant ones. are you using Home Assistant stuff, or did you decide to name your own personal agent Naboo? Good thread to pull because Kanidm makes the cert decision earlier than most services. It won't even boot without TLS. Awesome. I mean, fair enough. I like this is very rusty, and then it forces me to do the correct thing. Step CA. Okay. Browsers on everyday devices because your whole design routes humans through the IDP. Assert those devices don't trust means a warning page. Yeah, I don't want warning pages. Local self-sign. That sounds like a pain. I would rather it be signed by an authority that's trusted by all of my devices right away. Your own idea doc already picked the third row, and I think correctly the reasoning is worth making explicit. Okay. If you are going to do EAP, eventually it will be. I don't know what EAP is. How? Okay. Okay. Let's consider. Okay, so let's do a consideration. Let's consider, what is that called? Step CA with EAP. Also tell me what EAP is. Versus let's encrypt plus Acme or some other auto renewal thing. Certs to connect to the network can also be used to route for step CA. Certs to connect to the network can also be used to route for step CA. Okay. My agent named himself. It's all my own stuff. I just gave my agent some description and decided on the name. Interesting. That's kind of cool. Step CA is genuinely lovely. Internal Acme server, 24-hour certs, machine identities. People reach for it thinking internal only infra should have internal PKI. Certs, what is PKI? But the tax lands exactly where your design is sensitive. Every consumer device needs the root installed. Yep. Including dad's devices eventually across 2 sites. That's a problem. That's going to be frustrating. Browsers get picky about enterprise roots. It's a stateful service you must back up and upgrade. Okay. This might be a down the road thing, I'm thinking. Open questions worth settling early though. Who hosts DNS and does it have an API? That single fact decides whether step 2 is a 20-minute task or a migration. Okay. Okay. Wiresecurity.acme. It's been a long time since I've done this. Accept terms, asserts lab. Okay. I think I'm going to buy the domain Laundry Lab. Let's see if I can. Why is it so expensive? Wait, there's some cheap ones. Hold on. Come along, friends. So this is probably not going to be our most productive stream of all time. We can have laundrylab.tech for $10 a year. That's funny. Can I have .ca? Who are these people buying Laundry Lab? You know? Like, why? LaundryLab.sh is also kind of awesome. Okay, good thread to pull because Kanidm makes the cert decision earlier. Yeah, we've already read through this. We're looking at this new section, which is all the way down after all this thinking. And the Kanidm docs turned out to be directly relevant here. Their radius integration speaks both password mode and cert mode. Okay, all of a sudden, it's kind of interesting. Which puts your EAP question right at the center of the design. Let me untangle terminology first because I suspect EAP is doing double duty. What is EAP? Extensible Authentication Protocol. Not a certificate protocol at all. It's the authentication framework inside Right. And you were mentioning, Sarah, last week about Radius. One of these, I think it's a Wi-Fi specification, or maybe it's much broader than that, which is how Wi-Fi does WAPA enterprise. Per user, per device login instead of one shared. Psk. Cool. EAP is just the envelope. The method inside it is what matters. Okay. EAP TLS. Client certificate per device. Yes, your own CA always. Only a server cert on the Radius box. Okay. Join home enterprise, Radius, EAP exchange relayed through AP, accept VLAN. So Let's Encrypt cannot issue client certificates. The moment you say EAP, TLS, a private CA stops being optional. Step CA isn't competing with LE for a job. It's the only candidate for that job. Okay, I'm not jumping down the Radius rabbit hole for a good long while, I think. So I guess the question is, here I'm considering something that's quick and easy, right? I can do Let's Encrypt and kind of get going. Cordial salutations. Hello, hello. How's it going? All is pretty well. I'm a little tired today, but we're just continuing to learn about authentication and fun things like that. So, we're getting there. Once every device must install your root CA anyway, Wi-Fi profile plus cert equals one payload on iOS and Android. The trust distribution tax, yeah, I mean, I do not want to go through all of that. Okay. So let's assume I may want to move from Let's Encrypt to Step CA one day. How hard would that transition be? Because then we can just do Let's Encrypt things to start, get us a nice, easy way to begin. And then when we find out, hey, it would be, once we start exploring Radius, which God knows when that'll be, but maybe eventually, then if the transition is easy, we're happy campers. LaundryLab.tech is pretty good. And LaundryLab.sh is pretty good, but .tech is cheaper. You'll hate the migration. Yeah, but I just don't feel like yeah. Device count. Oh, okay. Servers, directory state. Every server you run is one line in the flake. Every phone is a conversation with a person, and your idea doc already plans. Yeah, I mean, diving into Radius right now is just, I can't do that. I just can't do that. Smart TVs and things, yeah. Keeping the step CA door open, guys, two disciplines. Stable host names, one direction. Okay, cool. I'm gonna go Let's Encrypt for now. And if I hate myself later, that's life. Okay. So, what's it take to get going with Let's Encrypt so that I can do Kanidm things? That's the deal. And yeah, Laundry Lab is perfect as a domain name because it's going to be my lab and my dad's. And of course, we're both laundries. Is there no Canadian equivalent for people in the country? Free subdomains for people in the country? There might be. I don't actually know. But also, I don't mind paying $10 a year. $10 a year to own LaundryLab.tech is really, that's a good use of $10. I can get my dad to pitch it. I think he'd get a kick out of that. And I'd prefer to do this through Cloudflare, right? Cloudflare is what cool people do. Is that correct? Can I get a domain name through Cloudflare? I forget. Does anyone have a preference for buying domain names? Who hosts DNS for NathanLaundry.com? API capable host. All right, free API token scope to the zone. Lego support is free first class. Yeah, so we want to do Cloudflare things. I just don't know how to. I like NathanLaundry.com is with Namecheap, which is like it was a not my best move. Cloudflare is pretty good. I used to use Google domains. I also used to use Google domains. I think I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna move to Google domains," and then they were like, "We're shutting down Google domains," and I went, "Oh, I guess I'm not using Google domains." But I mean, I feel like I've at this point learned not to use Google software ever because they'll just shut it down, right? Like eventually they'll shut it down. So, what's the Google graveyard thing again? Okay, so I've got this, and then I want to see about here's dash.cloudflare.com. How do I get a domain here? Cloudflare best case. Okay. So, how do I do this? There's search account, quick search, by domain. Cloudflare by domain. Cloudflare registrar. Awesome sauce. But I mean, I don't know how to, like, it's going to take me so long to figure out all of that. And then the pain of getting these certificates onto every single device, it just sounds like a nightmare. I don't know. Like, I feel like even if it is the correct move, I'd be overwhelmed by the complexity and never finish. You know? Like what is that actually what do I got to do? I don't even know how to get a certificate onto a device. Let's start another thing. Hold on. Ask your AI what the minimal setup to get step CA plus EAP would be. All right, let's do it. What's the minimal setup to get step CA plus EAP? And what does that mean for my devices, like my iPhone and stuff? What's this mean? Because, like, is there a way EAP provisions the cert for step CA on connection? I see. Okay. So that means if you're on my network, all this stuff is trusted. That's nice. That changes things. Maybe. You automatically have and trust the cert. Well, that makes life better. This is so you've decided to run your own key. I don't know what that means. PKI, isn't that person, knowledge, something or other? Okay. Worth having with eyes open because the server is genuinely small and the device side is where the project lives. Okay. PK, public key infrastructure. Okay. I mean, I'd learn a lot. Root plus intermediate, Acme, skep endpoints, free radius, Kanidm radius module, access points. 4 moving parts. Step CA, 1 end spawn container. Step CA init gives you root plus signing intermediate. NixOS has a services step CA module. Awesome. State on ZFS, like everything else, of course, its own TLS uses a self-signed bootstrap cert. Okay. Radius. Kanidm's radius container. Configured for EAP TLS, it presents its own cert signed by your CA and maps client cert identities to Kanidm accounts. This is what makes it per device instead of per password. An AP that does WAPA Enterprise at all. This was the Cloudflare equivalent gate last time, and I should have asked sooner. Many consumer ISP routers simply can't. That's fine. OpenWort's going to be fine. Per device certificate. Okay, so that. Hey, Northern Chimp, how's it going? We're looking at laundry lab cleaning costs $88 a year. That's not bad. I simply will make private keys public. OpenWrt will absolutely be fine. Who needs... Yeah, privacy? What do you have to hide? Still one of the craziest statements. Privacy? What do you have to hide? Man, maybe I just don't like people looking at my stuff. I don't know. Also, hey Nick, how's it going? Per-device certificates. Nabu is the Mesopotamian god of knowledge. Oh, that is a good name. Per-device certificates, each mapped to Kanidm. Okay. My understanding is that OpenWrt configured somehow will sort of forward or pass on. So I'm good but anxious. I just gave in my resignation like 10 minutes ago. All right, congratulations. That's excellent. Are you happy to share with the chat what your plans are for the future? Because they're very exciting, especially for this community. But obviously, I don't want to share on your behalf, right? If you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Yeah. My understanding is that OpenWrt configured somehow will sort of forward or pass on the trust to devices that are on the network. Is that right? Also, what does that mean for devices that plug into my OpenSense router via switch? Right? So we have that too. Yeah. Nick got a job at Tailscale, and that's freaking sick. Honestly, made me consider Tailscale over Netbird. Just cuz. Okay, so an AP that does WAPA per device certificates, each mapped to a Kanidm person, plus whatever profile. Okay, 2 payloads, 1 profile file .mobile config, but with 2 famous gotchas. The trust toggle. Installing the root CA profile does not fully trust it. After install, you must go to settings, general. Oh, every guide's top comment section is people who miss this. The Wi-Fi part wants a profile. Anyway, iOS's manual Wi-Fi UI basically only walks you through password-based peep. So, wait a second. Hold on. This only matters if the device is using the applications that is using Laundry Lab applications. It's not like they need the cert just to use the internet. I don't know why I was thinking like that. So there's only a few devices that need this set up. That's not that big a deal. That's not a big deal. I think the pain in the ass is going to be the Apple TV. Skep enrollment. Step CA. Okay. On the iPhone itself, medium profile. Yeah, that's going to suck. Skep is the sweet spot if you want this done right. The phone generates its key and enroll. There's just so many parts. I don't know how to think of this. I don't know how to grasp this. Trivial, max. They never see EAP TLS. That's not going to matter. Because this is a misconception and it's worth untangling carefully, blah, blah, blah. No mechanism exists for pushing trust onto devices. Nothing on your network can install a certificate into a device's trust store. I do like Claude has recently vomited out an app for me. That might work. Okay, give an overview of X509 and PKI cert chains. Lord. Nothing on your network can install a certificate into a device's trust store. Deliberately require a human or an MDM system, which is a human with paperwork to approve trust changes. Any network that could silently make your phone trust its fake certificates could silently man in the middle you. Okay, true. What OpenWrt actually does in the EAP TLS picture is the opposite direction of what you're imagining. Device proves identity network. OpenWrt equals relay referee, forwards EAP messages to radius, opens the door on accept, pushes nothing to anyone. Device verify server service. The CA story from before. Okay, both directions are prove yourself, neither is here learn to trust. Who enforces here? The switch, not OpenSense. Unmanaged switch, nobody, everything just gets LAN. Interesting. Okay. One credential model everywhere. The same per device cert that joins a laptop to enterprise Wi-Fi can emit its port on the switch, mapped by Kanidm groups into admin user IoT VLANs. Your identity realm extends from apps down to the jack in the wall. But the cost curve is brutal at home lab scale. Configure every port plus fallbacks. Yeah, we're not doing all that. That's for sure. Most home labs that run EAP TLS Wi-Fi skip wired. The threat model at home rarely justifies making your printer a second-class citizen through configuration labor. Yeah, I don't own a printer. But still. Okay, cool. So we got to do these certificate things. Okay. All right. Give me a brief overview of X.509 and PKI cert chains, such that it's made simple for me and relevant here. Let's see how that goes. Yeah. Strip PKI to its skeleton. It's simpler than the jargon suggests, and you already have every concept loaded from our earlier threads. Buddy thinks that I've loaded all that knowledge. I have not. An X509 cert is just a signed statement binding a name to a public key, plus some metadata. Who this is about, what it can do, when it expires, names it's valid for. Okay, the whole trick is the signature. Someone else vouched that this key really belongs to this name by signing the bundle. That raises the question, who vouched for them? Follow the signatures, and you get a chain. No, that's okay. I should probably know these things. I preach learning foundations all the time, and here I am, tired but practicing what I preach. And this is for the best. Even if I sound grumpy. Root CA cert. Immediate cert. Leaf cert. Okay. Pre-installed in your phone's OS Trust Store. Okay. For a self-signed CA, it's basically just a bunch of open SSL calls. I don't even know what that does, to be honest. It's wild that our entire trust chain is built on like 1 of 5 companies. Yeah, true. Intermediate cert. ISRG root. Sent along by the server. I don't know what these things mean though. Like, I need this explained like I'm dumb. I'm gonna tell it that. Can you explain like I'm dumb? Give me a metaphor. Like, what does this mean? Like, there's a public chain, there's a private chain, there's an intermediate. Like, what could that possibly mean? I don't know. Don't look into how DNS is secured. I won't. I won't anytime soon. There's a trust store. The list of self-signed roots your OS shipped with. Okay. So like, what? Bill Gates talked to Frank and was like, and Frank went, "I'll tell you who's good," and Bill Gates went, "Cool, we're gonna ship that with every issue of Windows." Like, what does this mean? Not magic, not logic. Just 150 entries. Apple, Google, Microsoft decided to ship. Is this right, Nathan? Can I call you during stream? You can put me on speaker, sure. All right, hit me. Trust store. It's like I'm doing a game show and I'm calling in a friend. So basically, what? Let's Encrypt says is already trusted for some reason, but Let's Encrypt lets anybody be like, yes, you can trust me because I said so, and Let's Encrypt is like, yes, and Let's Encrypt is already pre-authorized, and everyone's okay with that. How does it make sense? Oh, Hello? One sec. You're,
Wait,
you're on speaker to stream.
okay, can the stream actually hear me?
I think so. Yes, that's how
Well,
it works.
I'm just waiting because I muted the stream, so I'm just seeing if they can hear me.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
okay. So let's like talk about CA certs, right?
Okay.
So your question was like, why are there chains, right?
Uh-huh.
That's your primary thing.
Well, there's a lot of things I'm curious about, but yeah, sure. Let's start with why are there chains and what does that even like what are they chaining?
Okay, so basically like the main problem that this is solving is, let's say you have like a server,
Yeah.
right? Um, you can have like a private key for that server, which is like never exposed, and public key which is exposed, and then you see the HTTPS symbol and like it's all encrypted or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
The problem this is solving is, how do you know that server is saying who, like, how do you know it is who it says it is,
Right.
right? So like, how do you prove that?
Okay.
Right? Because
Let,
yeah,
let, let so for example, I could host a server, right? And on that server I could say I'm google.com, right? Like I could do that.
yeah,
Okay.
yes,
And so the problem is if I put Google into my browser, right? And I try to go to google.com, if everybody could say they are google.com, right? Every server could just assert this. Then when I try to go to Google, there's no way that I can know that I'm going to the correct, like the one that I wanted. Is that right?
yeah, that's exactly right. Like,
Okay.
it's no better than it not being encrypted, or it's barely better than it not being encrypted,
Okay.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is sort of the root of why all of this exists, is to solve that problem.
Okay.
So the question is like, how? The next question is like, okay, well, how does it do that, right? So it essentially boils down to, you need someone to attest that you are in fact Google.
Yep.
Right. And so what they do is basically like, this is where the chain comes in, is like Google has a self-signed certificate, which is called a leaf. There's then a couple of nodes going up, and Google itself like has a very secret sort of root key, or root certificate, that basically can sign any Google domain. So like, search.google.com, youtube.google.com, ... right?
Okay.
And it boils down to there being exactly one thing that it identifies Google, right? So that means Google can say, I own all of these other things. These all are leafs that I control that fall under my umbrella,
Okay.
right? So this means that they can have multiple private keys. They can rotate them. They're sort of in some kind of control over those. Like, they can expire and it's okay, right? And so then the final leap, and where the root CA thing is basically, there's like 5 companies, or I mean, there's a set of companies that like your browser vendor trusts. So like Safari or Internet Explorer or Apple or like Google or whatever. And they're sort of the root certificate authorities, and they can basically give out certificates for anyone, right? And so we're trusting these companies to only give out certificates to people who say they are, and there's no more trust beyond that point. Like, you're just saying, this company I implicitly trust. This is the root of where everything else comes from. If they make a mistake, I'm fucked.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Okay, kind of. Okay. So let me see if I understand the role of these various certs. So leaf cert is a leaf cert is what exactly? I assert that I am like a subdomain of nathanlaundry.com.
So the leaf cert is realistically the only thing the browser itself is concerned with. Like, it's the thing that you download.
Okay.
Right? It's the thing your browser downloads.
Okay.
Right? They download the whole leaf cert, and it basically asserts that this web page that I'm looking at right now, it asserts that is in fact the web page that is secure, and this is what defines sort of the browser icon, right? The lock icon.
Okay.
Right? So the leaf cert is realistically the only thing you're interacting with day to day.
Okay.
The intermediate cert, right, is sort of like this detail that helps you do rotation of the leafs and make new ones, right?
Okay.
So if let's say Google has search.google.com and they have a leaf certificate that is valid for search.google.com, they may want to make another service at like www.google.com, and those cannot be the same leaf. They're like two different websites.
Okay.
Right. So having the intermediate cert sort of lets you rotate those, lets you generate new ones and stuff like that.
So the leaf cert is basically per website, kind of, or per address, right?
Yeah, like companies can have like more than one intermediate cert. I mean, that's the whole point. They're intermediate. They can be managed in all different kinds of ways, but they essentially like solve the problem of like, you know, you don't want your leafs expiring every day.
Okay. Wait. Okay. Let me. So my browser downloads a leaf cert when I go to some website, and it's basically like one leaf cert at a time per website or per address, right?
Yeah.
The intermediate cert is something that's managed by an organization that owns one or more addresses and therefore needs to manage one or more leaf certs.
Yes, that's right.
And the intermediate cert says, I, the owner of this address, am saying these leaf certs are correct and valid. They were signed by me.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. Then the intermediate cert needs to be trusted somehow by someone. Like, we need to know that they're not lying, right? Because I could, as Nathan Laundrie, have an intermediate cert of sorts and say, I am search.google.com, right? I could also say that. Or, sorry, I could have an intermediate cert and then try to issue a leaf cert that says I'm google.com. And that would, of course, be a lie, right? But I could issue it. Now, so we need somebody to say, issuers of leaf certs, they need to exist. Somebody has to be able, people need to be able to issue leaf certs for their own stuff. But we need to trust those organizations to issue like valid leaf certs, essentially, right? Yes. And so intermediate certs get signed by a root certificate authority. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And so like and this is what we mean by chains, right? So like if you see on your AI window, like you see two chains, private, public. We're talking about the public chain.
Okay.
Right? The private chain is basically like who actually owns the ability to sign these things, like who actually has the like private key of each thing that generated the signature. These sort of are not connected, and like I would not describe them as connected in the way this diagram does.
Okay.
Right? Like they're actually more disconnected than this. Basically, like if I'm running, you know, google.com or whatever, I have the public private key pair for my intermediate certificate, and I can like issue new leaf certificates if someone gives me like a certificate to sign, right? And so like they're not like the arrows here are not really how I'd represent this if I was like making a technical diagram, but it's like kind of true in some ways. I don't know.
Okay. I mean, that's something.
So did you have any other questions? Like you were struggling with like getting this, and I just wanted to walk you through it.
Okay.
You know?
So now let's talk about how the hell does Let's Encrypt work, right? So there's this ISRG, whatever that is, and it's somehow related to Let's Encrypt. How is it that I can sort of set up Let's Encrypt, and all of a sudden the world trusts that I own this domain, nathanlaundrie.com? That sounds way too simple. Like it sounds like it breaks the thing.
So I can actually walk you through this as well.
Okay.
We're gonna start pushing on the boundaries of my knowledge here shortly, but like I know how Let's Encrypt works.
Okay.
Your next questions I may not be able to answer as well.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So basically, like with Let's Encrypt, they're a root certificate authority that is trusted by your browser. Like there's an implicit level of trust for Let's Encrypt itself.
Okay.
Right. The EFF spent a very long time setting that up. They did the hard work here.
The EFS is what?
The EFF, Electronic Frontier Foundation, the people who run Let's Encrypt.
Okay, cool.
They did a lot of work to make sure browsers trust them.
Okay.
Right. And basically what I've never said this name out loud. Devious.
Devious, I think.
That is devious.
Yeah.
Devious. Okay, so devious is right. Basically, like, you as the owner of a domain need to prove to Let's Encrypt that you own it, right? And then they will issue a certificate. So this is usually done in one of two ways. The first is Let's Encrypt gives you some kind of challenge that you can change your DNS record to, and there's automation for this.
Mhm.
And they will query the DNS name, and basically, because that challenge now exists as public information, they're able to query it. You've effectively proven that you own the domain, and they will sign your certificate.
It's
right?
kind of like they ask you, so they ask you to change something about that domain to prove that you have control over it, and if you like answer back properly, then they're like, yeah, or if the domain answers back properly, they're like, yeah, okay, you must own it, you just changed it to match the thing we asked.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what Acme is. That's like kind of the protocol that actually does that is what Acme is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep. Acme is a protocol. Okay, cool. All right. I'll take it from here. I'm going to read the dumb the dumb tutorial from AI, and then I'm going to see about what it would take to set up StepCA.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, like and I think like all of your other knowledge can be based on what we just talked about, right? Like like this is sort of the basis. Like once you have an understanding of this, it's like you have to prove you own the domain to Let's Encrypt. Let's Encrypt is implicitly trusted. Once you prove you own it, you can do stuff. You can generate your own intermediate certificates based on that trust.
Okay.
And so on, right?
All right. Cool. All right. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, catch you later. Okay, cool. There's some stuff. Laminated badge. I'm the front desk of this. That badge is a certificate. Everyone inside wears a laminated name badge. Lamination is the signature, and here's the whole game. Anyone can print a badge claiming anything. So what matters isn't the badge, it's who laminated it. That was fun. Yeah. The intermediate you get is scoped. You couldn't pretend to be Google with it. Yes, that makes sense. Okay, you don't trust badges, you trust laminators. A badge from the building management office, Let's Encrypt, is fine, everyone knows him. But how do you know the guy at building management is real? His authority letter was signed by corporate headquarters through CA. So checking a badge means following the paper trail. Badge, building office, corporate headquarters. That's the chain. If the trail ends somewhere you recognize, the badge is good. Okay. In the lobby, there's a framed list of official laminators. Corporate headquarters, government offices, big agencies. This is the trust store. And here's the part that surprises people. Nobody checks whether that list is correct. It's just the list the building came with. I mean, makes sense. Thank you, person on the phone. I understand better now as well. Excellent. We're all getting educated today. Nick has been teaching me things since I was 18. I used to walk into like the SOCUS lounge, like basically the Computer Science Society lounge, and they could be like, do you want to learn about how pointers work today? It'd be a good time. You don't check. My trust store is pruned. My trust store is pruned. Nice. All right. In the lobby, there's there's this. Yes. Now everything we discussed becomes obvious. Your iPhone trusts Let's Encrypt for free. Corporate headquarters is on every phone's frame already. Installing StepCA is root. Taping one new name into your own lobby's frame. The metaphor is actually helpful. I'm not gonna lie. Like I feel dumb, but whatever. I also have Shakespeare for Dummies. I always read the Shakespeare for Dummies part before I read Shakespeare. I'm not ashamed. The wild card cert. One badge that says I'm any desk ending in ... Yeah. Okay. EAP-TLS. Normally the receptionist shows you her badge. EAP-TLS is the reverse. The door won't open until you show her yours. Same lamination rules, opposite direction. That's all a client cert is. Okay. Cert expiry. Badges have expiration dates. Okay. Sure. So what's the minimal way to get started with... Let's start with just what is it? StepCA. And how do I get that cert onto my MacBook and NAS? Let's start here. So I was like, I'll just run Kanidm and start playing with it to see if I can figure out how this works. No, we got more levels to jump through. But if we get this done right, maybe the rest of the homeland will be easy. Yeah, well, one thing at a time. The user wants minimal way to get started. One container, 2 files that matter, and 1 line per NixOS host. Okay, so we run it as a container. That's fine. It creates a file, the root cert. It creates a root certificate authority key. Intermediate plus its own key lives here. Serves sign renewal CRL endpoints. Okay. NAS plus future NixOS hosts. Flake line. MacBook, 1 command or key chain drag. Only one artifact actually matters for your question. That's the framed list name from our metaphor. Everything else is stepCA's own plumbing. Okay. Explain the cert versus the key. Which of these, if any, are sensitive and cannot be shared? I'm guessing the key, but whatever. Stand up stepCA, you decided default and spawn container, one time init, stepCA init asks for a certificate authority name and generates root plus intermediate. NixOS's services.stepCA module runs it, state on its own ZFS dataset. Its own HTTPS cert is self-signed at first, fine, because nobody trusts it via a chain yet. They pin the fingerprint instead. Okay. Right. Read file. 1 line in the Flake shared module. Every NixOS box you ever add inherits trust automatically. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. CA. Okay, so I host this. Well, I guess I run. I guess if it's all local, I don't need to buy a domain name, do I? Right? Like I can just run laundrylab.local and then we're chilling. Okay. Continuing the badge metaphor, certificate and a private key are 2 halves of one identity. So we have private key, pure math, no name, never leaves you. Key and PEM. Certificate, name plus expiry plus sans. I don't know what sans are. Contains your public key. Hand out freely, cert and PEM. Okay, why do we have a public and private .pem? What's .pem? Private key is the physical stamp. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Never leave the machine they were made for. ISBN, if you want to dive into RSA and all the rest of it. Oh my god. A .pem trips everyone up because it answers the wrong question people ask of it. PEM is an envelope format, not a content type. Privacy enhanced mail. An email encryption standard from the 90s that died, leaving only its packaging behind. Nathan rolls his own crypto. Please, no. Please. I just want to run Jellyfin. I mean, I believe you. Just the backlog of reading is so long. Text envelope. Okay. Cert and key. The badge, the stamp. Okay. Yeah. So PEM's just a file format. You learn about 100 reasons why Alice and Bob had communication problems. Poor Alice and Bob. I hope they made it. I hope after dealing with all of their relationship issues, all of their communication issues, they're doing well now. Okay, so I run step CA. It generates a root certificate. If Eve would stop fucking messing with them. It generates a root certificate. It also generates an intermediate one that I can use to make leaves. Right? It's got public stuff and private stuff. The private stuff is sensitive data that I need to store securely via ZFS data sets and backups, I assume. Cool. Then I need to move. Cool. Okay. I assume if we're doing our own certificate authority, I can use. I don't need to buy a domain name. I can use laundrylab.local, right? How would I do that? Eve keeps interfering in the relationship. Alice and Bob should go to therapy. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to help, not overwhelm. No. You're all being very, very helpful. This is a naturally overwhelming problem to solve, but that's the cost of learning, right? We all like it's natural to enter highly complex spaces, be overwhelmed, chip away, right? And then come out of it more knowledgeable. This is fine. This is fine, right? I'm not going to walk away with a comprehensive understanding of everything that we've just gone into. What I can do, thanks to all of you, is do my best to set up something that doesn't screw me for the future and sets me up to learn to the best of my abilities today, right? So thank you all for helping me avoid foot guns. You know, the overwhelm was just part of the game. Root generates intermediate. Intermediate signs leaves. Private halves are the sensitive material. Yes, one refinement, ZFS datasets and backups cover the intermediate, and step CAs state nicely. But the root key deserves better than on the NAS. Cold encrypted off NAS storage. It's used once a decade and is the one file whose loss or leak rewrites your whole PKI. Cool. Now, I'm going to talk you out of this one because it's a famous home lab landmine and you specifically have iPhones in scope. Okay. .local isn't just unowned. It's formally reserved for MDNS. Well, I don't have to use .local. Can I use something else? Actively fights you. .arpa. Okay. .local isn't just unowned, it's formally reserved for MDNS. That's the protocol where devices announce themselves on the LAN. Okay. You'd be fighting the OS itself, especially Apple's and your own device inventories, MacBook and iPhones. People burn weekends on this exact mistake. It's not that .local is frowned upon. It's that major platforms special case special cased away from normal DNS. Well, that's annoying. You can literally just make shit up. Yeah, right? Why couldn't I? So, like, why don't I name it? Like, it can just be laundrylab.bob. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Public CAs refuse non-public names. Well, why would that matter? I'm not escape hatching. Like, clearly, if I'm doing all this work, I'm locked in. We're doing step CA, so I can name it whatever the heck I want. You can simply point an actual domain you own to a private IP. Yeah, that's true. I can. But I don't want to reuse nathanlaundry.com because that feels like a management headache right now. You can sign for any domain. Yeah, right? Because like nathanlaundry.com is being used to host things my website. I kind of want to have like public things on nathanlaundry.com and private things on some other shit, right? Um, no, no, it's being weird. I can just use any arbitrary ending though, right? Assuming I'm not doing LE escape hatch, I can literally do laundrylab.bob if I wanted. I use what the what is that? It's in the sky, it's not a cloud. Wow. Just others will get SSL warnings. Wait. What do you mean others will get SSL warnings? Okay, hold on. I'm assuming. Okay, where's the problem here? Let me think. Okay, because I can install this certificate authority stuff, but if I want, like, if I want other people to be able to use this stuff, they're all gonna have to go through this cert thing. They're not gonna go through the cert thing. You can be root CA, just other browsers won't accept the cert you have for Google.com. Yeah, right. I'll have to come up with an easier way for other users. Like just setting up the certificate authority thing, I know my friends aren't going to go through that trouble. Right. I'm currently debugging my simulcrypt code. Could really use some help. Just use Let's Encrypt. The easiest way is Let's Encrypt. Streaming certs is a pain. Yeah, right? Like, okay, we've learned some cool things. If they're on Android, it's easy to do. Blame Apple for being fucking stupid. I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, right, the question is this usable for people? Right. What does this buy me? It doesn't have to be a pain, but it is, right? Like, I'm with you, but there's the reality, right? Okay. What does step CA buy me over Let's Encrypt? If you go the local domain route, something.internal is the recommended TLD. Others were in the wild for a long time, but since TLDs can be bought, they became a problem. I see. Are these friends of yours who will use your service be on your Tailscale network? Something like that. That's the goal. Like either Tailscale or like NetBird or something like that. His dad. Also my dad. Now, some of these people are technical. Some of these people are not. My dad is going to have absolutely no problem setting up certs. He'll probably have an easier time than I will, right? Like this is something he's much more knowledgeable than me about. If you're asking one of us to write code, I'll write better code. If you're asking one of us to deal with a network, that's all him. So, yeah, okay. LE only signs server identities. IDM Labs. StepCA signs any end identity, including I am Nathan's iPhone. And that gives me my EAP Wi-Fi. Both sides prove themselves. Machine automation identities aren't passwords. This is really interesting. And I'm guessing, Sarah, that's one of your big points. What would you say is the big thing for you? Why go through all of this extra work? What is it buying me? Everything else on this list is nice to have. Names without coordination. The one that matters, that one matters a lot. Yeah, machine automation identities that aren't. But don't I already have like SSH keys and things like that managed through Kanidm? Like what what kinds of machine automation? What kinds of machine automation? MTLS control EAP. Per device network admission. I mean, like, I'm fine with people scanning a QR code to get on my Wi-Fi, right? Like, this is, what does it get? Like MTLS between services? I don't even know what that means. Machine automation, identities that aren't passive. What kinds of machine automation? I have some level TLS in your LAN. Well, I like MTLS auth. Okay. SSH keys are pub private key pairs. X509 is the same thing wrapped with a signature vouching for things. That's it. Done. Okay. So, but I'm sorry. I know these are probably really stupid questions. But like, if I can just have SSH keys delivered to my devices, then I can do machine automation with identities that aren't passwords, right? Then why go through the extra trouble? Like, what kind of machine automation is enabled by wrapping it with a signature that vouches for things? It's my home network. I'm vouching for it, right? Like, what am I getting out of this? Ali requires proving control of a public domain. That's fine. Like lifetime as a policy knob. I can rotate things. No external dependency. Shuins works with the internet unplugged. Yeah, sure. Policy control. That's cool. You can, but then you have questions about provenance. How do you gain initial trust about a thing providing its SSH keys? Oh shit! You were trying to do encrypted network between proxy to services. You don't get anything out of it. I see. Okay, what kinds of machine automation? You're distributing SSH keys, which Kanidm empowers me to do. No. So, how do you gain initial trust about a thing providing its SSH keys? I'm the one who triggers the SSH keys, right? Nobody else is on my network. HTTPS in your LAN when you're doing things like WebRTC. Right. Okay, so I can do all that without being my own root certificate authority, right? Like, Let's Encrypt lets me have TLS in my LAN. Is it right? Or is that only for like HTTP applications and we're talking about TLS between HTTPS in your LAN? Yes, yeah, right. Is there some other level that I get? I'm guessing this is what MTLS means? Correct. Independence plus a skill. My AI is spitting values at me. Kanidm does MTLS's mutual transport layer security. Okay. And it's generally good. Keys live in the directory. SSHD pulls them through UNIXD at login. Revocation is a group change. That's real machine adjacent automation power. Because SSH keys and machine certificates solve different shaped problems. The question underneath every case: who is authenticating as what over what kind of connection? Okay. Admin SSHing. A person. Interactive session. Kanidm SSH keys. Automation. A user account. Session. SCP rsync. Right. App calling API. Service account. HTTP request plus token. Kanidm service accounts. Cool. Scraping metrics. Backup pull. Ephemeral runner. This is paranoia driven over engineering to have TLS warm fuzzies everywhere. I see. Interesting. Well, not fully. WebRTC in Firefox requires a trusted certificate authority, not just a self-signed override. Requires a trusted certificate authority. Okay, interesting. Machines as first-class principles. I am NAS01, I am a user standing on NAS01. The identity belongs to the box, survives personal changes, can't be confused with anyone's laptop. Channel auth without sessions. MTLS isn't a login. It's every single connection proving both ends. A Prometheus scraper talking to node exporters on 9 hosts doesn't open sessions or hold accounts. Each scrape is mutually authenticated. SSH is a bad shape for this. Session-oriented, shell-flavored chatty. Gating listeners directly. With MTLS, you can run a service whose door literally doesn't open without a client cert. No exposed port to the open world. No account to compromise. No firewall rules to maintain. Auth moves from the network around the service into the service itself. Ephemeral credentials for ephemeral workers. The counterpoint. Okay, and you get that trusted CA using Let's Encrypt. But this is a notorious Firefox plus WebRTC thing. Chrome-based is okay with self-signed, so a bit of a corner case. WebRTC plus Firefox is hell. Okay, look at row 3 of your own architecture. Netbird, what is Netbird functionally? Machine identity, enrollment, I am this node, equals encrypted channels, ACL, gated reachability. That's a large fraction of the machine identity job already assigned. The residual niche is real but narrow. Internal service to service TLS. Fine over network overlay, blah, blah, blah. Automation that acts like a user. And that's most home lab automation. Step CA's machine cert story covers machines as principals and connection level mutual auth. A different tier of rigor that your stack partially preempts via netbird. I don't know about that. So the honest sequencing holds. Nothing about machine automation forces step CA into week 1. When you hit an actual, this daemon should authenticate self, not borrow my account. That's the day step CA earns a second customer. Okay. Why are you using a self-signed cert? Why not simply have your reverse proxy do the automatic certificate provisioning using Let's Encrypt? Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm writing the WebRTC server and deploying it to as many real hosts as possible to go beyond synthetic tests. FF always hits this problem. Firefox always hits this problem. I ship the CA pub key now to register. Okay. So okay. So for scraping metrics and backup pull, how would that work? I've never installed Prometheus and Grafana. I assume there's a daemon somewhat like Kanidm's Unixd thing. Why can't your WebRTC server be behind Traffic Nginx Let's Encrypt backed domain? There's a daemon somewhat like Kanidm's Unixd thing, right? That hands over that gathers information about a machine, or is it that about a machine and serves it, or is it that Prometheus must be set up to go into a machine and grab, say, like journal stuff. Because they're all in different networks. Okay. That's worth seeing because the pull-based design shapes everything else about monitoring. Every machine runs a small exporter daemon, conceptually Unixd's cousin, with serving numbers instead of identity. Yeah. Tiny daemon. This is just an API though. Like this, if this is going over HTTP, then my exporter of choice is vector. Okay. Pull, not push. Prometheus dials out and reads an HTTP endpoint. Okay, so if we have an HTTP endpoint, then okay, the exporter knows nothing about Prometheus. It just publishes a text page. No SSH, no login. It's plain HTTP GET. Nobody has an account anywhere. Exporters are modular. Your idea doc already names both halves. Vector, Loki. So this was all decided in outline. Vector is the log shipper there. It reads journal D and ships to Loki. Now the punchline you've been building toward. Look again at the diagram. What does Prometheus need? To reach port 9100 on every machine over HTTP with no human involved. That's precisely the daemon-to-daemon case from our last message. Exporters bind to the mesh interface only. Unreachable outside the tunnel. Auth equals mesh enrollment. Plain TLS. Exporter serves HTTP. I don't want to be reliant on NetBird for my machines to communicate with each other. NetBird is like, what I want NetBird to be is just the glue between two networks that makes it act like one. I have made no choices. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, the space is just so big. Plain TLS. Exporter serves HTTPS with a wildcard cert. Scraper verifies server. Stepsiator. Exporter demands a client cert from Prometheus 2. Random overlay members can't scrape even inside the mesh. The dominant homeland pattern is pull over SSH, and notice it lands in a row. Yeah, that's what I figured. Service account with restricted shell. Key from Kanidm, no sudo. That's automation as a user with Kanidm distributed keys, your existing toolset. The cert flavored alternative, Restix REST backend behind MTLS or push to object storage. That's kind of an interesting solution. Buys you transport level mutual auth. Yeah. Monitoring is a pull pipeline. Daemons publish self-descriptions over HTTP. Prometheus collects, Grafana visualizes, while logs ride a separate push pipeline into Loki. All ever runs happily inside your NetBird overlay. Okay. Okay. I'm a bit scared to ask the stupid question here, but what exactly are we trying to achieve? We're so far down the rabbit hole. Today what I wanted to do was set up Kanidm. I don't know how to pronounce that properly, but to see what it would be like to use it to set up like a POSIX user on a machine, right? But then it turned out that Kanidm requires TLS stuff. So then we went down the rabbit hole of like, okay, well, what are our solutions to getting all of that set up? And then we went down a rabbit hole of I needed to learn about how certificates are signed. So we've been here for an hour kind of learning a bit about that. I mean, the question is legit. For your NAS? Nope. Yeah. So yeah, we started going down that rabbit hole and comparing owning our own root certificate authority versus just using Let's Encrypt. And we've been kind of learning about the affordances of each for a while here. So that's been the day, really. That's been the stream. For my NAS and my whole home lab. So my plan is a home lab of N devices. Right now, just this NixOS NAS, but I'm home labbing, my father is home labbing, and we're planning on connecting the two home labs over NetBird or Tailscale or something like that. And what I wanted was, like, I've got some Samba shares, and I'm happy to switch and or also use NFS before somebody says something about it. And I was thinking about auth, just in general, right? And I was thinking about, okay, well, we have OIDC stuff, right? Like I was looking for OIDC solutions, and there's plenty of that. Authentic, Athelia, Keycloak, and Kanidm. And then I was like, okay, it would be really nice if if I spin up VMs and things like that, they can be seeded with SSH keys. They can have I can have consistent users because that would make authentication easier and consistent. I was thinking about LDAP. Many of these things I don't know much about, right? So I'm sort of dabbling. So long story short, I'm curious about how to keep auth stuff consistent both at the app level, right? And so OIDC stuff, and then across devices, right? For sharing data sets of some sort, whether that be via Samba or NFS, doing backups across multiple devices and that kind of thing. So I think having sort of a consistent POSIX user store and SSH key distribution would make that easier. Provision the VMs with Nix, and you can pre-seed anything and everything. I mean, true. But like the thought of managing, like it feels to me like user management could sprawl when having one way to do that would be nice. You know what I mean? Yes, Cloud init was something I was thinking about too. Yeah. So, interesting things. I don't know yet. I'll. I feel like I'm making things way too complicated. You know? Apps, OIDC users, and Linux users all managed in one place. Yes, that's what I was thinking, right? That's better. That's a good way to phrase it. Apps, OIDC users, and Linux users all managed in one plane. Kanidm. That seemed quite nice, right? And then we got down the certificate authority rabbit hole. Then just docker pull jellyfin, hand code the config, and don't worry about it. Then just docker pull jellyfin, hand code the config, and don't worry about it. I mean, like, if I'm getting like, I mean, obviously we could go down that rabbit hole, but we're learning a lot, you know. We're going. Yeah. I'm a bit scared of, okay. You don't have to do it right. Who am I to tell you something is right anyways? I mean, all of these things are worthwhile to learn and know, right? These rabbit holes are interesting and they're fun. So we're learning a lot. I obviously don't want to just do like Docker compose up a bunch of stuff because I could have done that last week and then we just have a home lab that's serving a bunch of stuff, but I don't trust that, right? I do want to learn about this network managing stuff. What is this? Apps OADC. This is definitely over engineering, but cool problem if you solve it. Yeah, right? So, I mean, definitely it's if the goal is to just serve stuff, right? Then obviously this is way overkill, right? But it's like it's a mixed bag, right? Because we're partly in this to host some stuff. We're partly in this to learn a bunch of like Unix and network administration. So that's why the many rabbit holes. And that's why we also don't just Docker compose up some stuff. Because what would we learn by doing that, right? And look how look. I mean, now I know that you can authenticate as a machine, right? I didn't know that machines could be provided identities and communicate daemon to daemon uh, this way. Today, today we didn't build anything, but my God, did we learn stuff, right? So circle this from 5 angles. So I don't know. I'll cook on this, I think, for the week and see what rabbit hole I want to jump down. I'm curious. Okay, wait. Could we do both? Because here's my problem, right? Let's Encrypt is clearly a much easier solution for non-technical friends who are never going to take the leap of installing a certificate. Of course. Thank you, Sarah. Um, so that's the easy part for my friends who just like I want them to be able to have easy access to applications. That's the real blocker. I'm not blocked on difficulty. I'm happy to do that. So if I can do both, then I'm fine, right? Like my friends who are on the network can use a thing that never like can use laundrylab.tech signed by Let's Encrypt, and they never have to install a certificate. I, as an admin, can explore PKI stuff through StepCA, right? And then what we have is the best of both worlds. And I get to learn both. I think that's the solution. It's not, but which one? It's yes and. That's not a compromise. It's the nation. Yeah, nothing about the two CAs conflicts. They're just two laminating offices with different specialties. Yeah. Here we go. Now we've got an idea. I don't have to migrate if I can run both. Two cert pipelines, zero interference. The only real design question is which names belong to whom. Because giving one host name to two competing certs is how you create 2 AM. Yeah, well, I'm not dumb. Why? The clean division of labor. Rule of thumb that fell out of our browser facing anything needing client certs. Okay, wait. Is this open code? This is Pi. So, could I run step CA with something like laundrylab.arpa and let's encrypt with laundrylab.tech, which I buy from Cloudflare? I think I can, right? This kind of gives me the ability to have like people enter easily, but also as an admin I can do the machine to machine stuff. I can learn and like manage eep stuff on my OpenWrt routers or access points for devices that I actually manage and control and am willing to put the time into. That could be very cool. Yes, mechanically this works. Two domains, two CAs, clean lines between them. It's $10 a year. ARPA isn't an open TLD. Whatever. It doesn't matter which one. Which one? Plus, which one were you using as that TLD again? You mentioned. something dot internal. Okay. Cool. Dot internal. Okay. Okay. Surname and hosts. That's fine. Zones to manage 1, 2. Renewal obligation. Why does it keep trying to get me to not buy a new domain? It's $10 a year. I'm fine with that. You know, like this is not a problem. This one got officially blessed. Dot internal. Awesome. I love it. This is great. This is perfect. Okay. So here's the game plan. We're going to try, going to do both. Let's encrypt with laundrylab.tech. I guess I'll buy that. Right? And, whoops. And step CA with laundrylab.internal. This allows easy access for people whose devices we cannot configure with assert, and I still get machine stuff. I just remembered stupid Twitch. What happened on Twitch? And I still get the machine machine daemon interactions authenticated nicely, right? And this is kind of this is cool because like, what do I really need? I don't want machines to communicate on like a public domain. .mobile config and passpoint give you one tap iPhone config for certs and most other devices too. .mobile config and passpoint. What is that? And passpoint. What is .mobile config and passpoint with regard to certificate authorities? Devices we cannot configure is precisely the right way to draw the boundary, right? Because yeah, it's super easy for the devices that I want to deal with. Like stuff within the home lab, it would be really nice to do this way. Applications like HTTP application type things, that seems nice via Let's Encrypt. An Apple configuration profile. For Wi-Fi, it typically carries SID, security, EAT methods, trusted certificate, and the network. Deployed via MDM, Apple configurator, or manually installed by double tapping the file. The profile usually embeds or references the root intermediate CA certs needed to validate the radius, server's certificate during 802.1x authentication, and B, present a client identity cert issued by your own private CA. Without the right trusted CA pinned in the profile, clients either fail validation or worse. Users click through, trust the certificate prompts, which defeats the security model. Right, but that, my understanding is users who aren't on my Wi-Fi are gonna like don't get this, right? So like, imagine I have a friend who joins NetBird or Tailscale, and then they want to go to laundrylab.internal. They're not connected, like, and they're at home, right? They're not connected to my access point, so they wouldn't. I assume they wouldn't get like the benefits of it. A Wi-Fi Alliance standard that lets devices automatically discover and securely join participating hotspots. They indeed would not yet have it. Right. Okay. Cool. Okay. So this makes life easier, but doesn't solve that need. Okay. Cool. Resolution 200 to make the model complete. Resolution mirrors trust. Cool. Kanidm is a single directory. Nspawn container on nasty. POSIX via UNIXD. Tested on the throw a VM first. Namespaces. Browser facing zero config trust. Plus Laundry Lab internal, stepca machines, and mutual auth. I like this distinction. This lets me learn. This maintains some of the ease. I think this will work well. Week 1 equals LE wildcard plus Kanidm launch plus POSIX experiment. stepca arrives when a machine auth workflow materializes. Maybe. We probably might just start with stepca. Like, we might as well. Like, I'm not getting users on this for a while, right? So we can do the cool stuff. We can do the hard stuff now. And then setting up Let's Encrypt when I want to onboard users is nothing. EAP, TLS Wi-Fi, gated on AP hardware, Samba versus Kanidm users. Good strategy. This has fully crystallized. I think that's what we're going to do. I knew it was worth continuing on, right? I knew it was worth struggling through until we came to a conclusion here. Until it stops feeling bad, you gotta keep exploring. This is gonna be very cool. I think this is gonna work. Okay. So let's write out the plan step by step. I want to start with step CA. Let's Encrypt looks almost trivially easy to configure for hosting my apps later. So I'd prefer to do the hard learning part first. I think the flow is something like this. Step CA gets configured on the NAS as an nspawn container, right? We figure out how to pass around leaves. We need to, first we need to figure out DNS. We figure out how to set up DNS for laundry lab.internal for my network. Then later, I'll netbird. Then, right, it's configured on the NAS as an nspawn container. We figure out how to set up DNS for laundry lab internal. Then we figure out how to set up the leaves for various leaves. The first one being ca.laundrylab.internal for the certificate authority, right? Then we can finally get to trying to host Kanidm. Is that right? I think this is right. Then we can do, okay, right? Not yet. Then we test it by seeing if my MacBook with the root CA configured can reach ca.laundrylab.internal. I think that's right. Right? This seems like a decent enough solution. I mean, of course, of course it's over-engineered, but it's fun. Like, it's over-engineered if all we want to do is host Jellyfin. But we don't just want to do that. We want a cool network. Largely right, though a little open on some stuff. Yeah, right? But we're like way... This, I feel good, which is a great sign that I have a level of understanding that, like, I think is now approaching actionable. Whereas, like, throughout the entire stream, I was like overwhelmed, but this feels like a resolution of sorts. Choosing the hard path is sound pedagogy. Yeah, well, AdGuard isn't deployed yet. Your NAS config has Samba, Avahi, no DNS. Figure out DNS. Isn't just config, it's sending up the resolver. Yeah, that's a work item in itself, and conveniently, it's also on your idea doc. Okay, but I don't know if AdGuard is the first way to do that, right? Okay. So I think the DNS thing is the thing we're going to wrestle with next week, right? It's going to be what is the setup that we need to make that make sense. Setting up the DNS was one of the open points. Thankfully, that's easy. Really? Okay, I mean, okay, cool. That's shocking. All I've ever seen are memes about how it's always the DNS. It's always DNS that's the problem. AdGuard authoritative wildcard. Should resolve.internal must use AdGuard as its DNS. It is always DNS, but it's easy? That's fantastic. Okay, well, I mean, I love that the problem is always an easy thing. That's nice. Your MacBook gets this via DHCP. If NAS DHCP hands out the right resolver or manual Wi-Fi DNS settings. Until this is true, .internal names fail weirdly and you'll waste an hour blaming certs when it's DNS. I like this. Okay. So they're all workable. Yeah, Core DNS I think is the one that I wanted to do. I think I want to use Core DNS. I think Nick was using Core DNS. Bind 9. Is that from Plan 9? That'd be cool. ID management, laundry lab.internal. Power DNS. Cool. Our idea doc actually mentioned Core DNS optional later if per record authority needed. Because one of the cool things, right? Like if we're going on the Let's Encrypt side, the way that I've seen Let's Encrypt used is that it's used in conjunction with traffic to just pick up Docker containers and assign domain names that are load balanced to a specific like application port, right? But it looks like if I do the step CA stuff, right, then I can have basically Tailscale's magic DNS given to me. So instead of remembering IP addresses, I can actually SSH into machines by name, right? So they can be like nasty.laundrylab.local or .internal, right? Which is not something I would want Let's Encrypt to do, I feel like. I don't know why I feel that way, but I don't like that. Like, I don't like the feeling of Let's Encrypt handling essentially like domain names for machines. For some reason in my brain, Let's Encrypt feels appy, right? And so, which makes this even a nicer, like, again, a distinction that I really like. We have step CA for kind of machine level things. And then and Let's Encrypt is letting me do app level things. And that feels nice. Sure, let's take a look at this. Power DNS. Compare and contrast Core DNS versus Power DNS. Let's do a little searching up at the same time. Core DNS. No, I've seen Core DNS looked interesting. It looked very like text configurable. Meet Power DNS. Authoritative essentials. Parental controls. Provides number mapping with DNS. Malware protection. UE DNS. Okay. This looks interesting. So, good instinct to check the main rival. Main rival, okay. 25 years old. Go CNCF project, child of Kubernetes. Do you use Termius? I don't know what Termius is. Is that like a phone app type thing for terminal things? Let's Encrypt should only be for handling application domain names. Okay. Look at this. It took 2 hours, but we're learning the affordances of each in ways that I understand. This is something you can do with the sshd config file, where you can have whatever name to connect to a server. Right, that's true. But I want that, like, central management is like a core principle of the way I like to design systems, right? So if I have sshd config file on a single device, I have to find a way to get that out to all my other devices. Whereas if there's a DNS kind of resolver thing happening in one spot on my network, then everyone just inherits magic DNS. Oh, beautiful, right? That's quite nice. And it does more than just SSH, right? We can do actually, I actually don't know what else we would do. But if you ever wanted to interact with a machine on some other protocol, the domain name still applies, and that's really nice. Good instinct check. They're both excellent, and both in Nix. Child of ISP Enterprise DNS World. Family auth server plus recursor plus DNS dist load balancer. Specialized daemons plugin chain. Okay. PowerDNS is so good at what it does, it is often used by ISPs. Okay. Word of advice, run your DNS such that it has its own IP presence on the network. Okay, will do. You're not planning to have a single node VM machine as your reverse proxy that handles the Let's Encrypt certs? I don't know, actually. I don't know yet. Just copy it with SCP. Yes. What sequence of plugins handles this query? PowerDNS splits the classic DNS roles into separate purpose-built programs. That feels Unixy. File template. Okay, it's core competency. DB backends. REST API for record CRUD. Full resolver with RPZ filtering Lua policy. Lua mentioned. Pure text drops into NixOS module verbatim. This is the thing that I liked about core DNS, is the single core file was nice. Per daemon configs, auth reads zone data from backend, not config. Built-in REST API and the auth server, add change records over HTTP. Dynamic records via plugins, no general REST. Strong, write Go plugins, 2 daemons doing distinct jobs. Cool. Core DNS is a query router. Elegant when your DNS life is, these zones are mine. Everything else goes upstream. Okay? Its genius is composability inside one process, and that its entire configuration is a single text blob you can own and flake. Strong start. PowerDNS is DNS infrastructure. It wins decisively when records are dynamic and numerous. Think thousands of zones managed via REST API. Recording records living in Postgres alongside the app that generates them, DNSSEC signing at scale, or ISP-grade recursive resolution with policy scripting. That's why it runs Cloudflare scale shops. Cool. The cost of that power is architectural. You run 2 daemons with different configs, and the auth server doesn't even hold zones in its config. They live in a database backend. I don't like database backend, but we'll see. For a home lab, you'd be deploying the cathedral to serve one wildcard zone. List one internal zone, a wildcard record, forward everything else upstream. All declared in the flake. Right. Records need an API. You know I love NixOS, yet I chose PowerDNS. Make of that what you will. Truly. Okay, what I really want to know is what it's like to use these. If I use Core DNS on non-Nix systems, what's that workflow like? I'd be hosting it on, like, what does that mean? The entire core file this needs. Tell me more about what it's like to use and configure Core DNS. Like, what would I do? Let's say I have the NAS, and I want it at nast.laundrylab.internal. Then I I mean, we're gonna have to do reverse proxy stuff, but that's fine. Okay. Then my dad has his NAS. Internal. How do we configure? How do we configure stuff? What needs to be distributed? Do I plug anything into a router? Like, what are we doing here? I actually don't know. Like, what's the configuration process like? I should sign off soon. Because now we're jumping down the DNS rabbit hole. And I think that's next week's problem. Right? Core DNS on NAS. Authoritative zone file for Laundry Lab internal with records. So I would run a VM, probably, like a micro VM that runs Core DNS or Power DNS, right? It would have its own IP address. That's the IP address of our DNS resolver and configuration. That I think is right. Like that makes sense. So Core DNS turns out to be the least distributed thing in your whole stack. Let me walk. One zone file, one server, every name. Both sites, machines are just records in the same file. And then I'm just like throwing Nginx in front of stuff whenever I want to run an app, right? Like that kind of thing. So lives only on NASD inside your flake. You know, okay, yeah. Namespace, admin. Then we just start listing things by IP, right? This is right. Cool. Then we have CNAME stuff for. Okay, that's interesting. Where a machine physically is. Dad's box is reachable at its netbird IP, so it's just an A record like any other. Okay. Flake builds one file containing the entire namespace. Here's one of my problems. AXFR zone transfers in Core DNS. I don't know what that means. From a laptop at either house, device asks NASD, its resolver. Core DNS matches the zone, returns the record, device connects over LAN or a netbird tunnel depending on which side, internet queries hit the forward block instead. One server does both jobs. No cables, no ports, one DHCP setting per site. That's the entire distribution story. Your site, wherever DHCP lives, set the advertised DNS server equals nasty's LAN IP. Cool. Cool. Also chicken and egg bootstrapping problems. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. Okay. We're going to leave DNS for next week. But we've come to some really interesting conclusions here. I think we made a lot of progress. I think we've made a lot of progress, right? It's fine to have these two certificates, or to use two separate certificate authorities, one for kind of like internally dealing with machines, one for more so externally, let's say users versus admins. But I didn't want to plug in. Right? So we have kind of an admin solution for machines, and we have a user solution for apps. That's just phenomenal, right? I think I'm gonna avoid thinking too much about this. I'll just plug in Core DNS and we'll deal with that. Like it can't matter that much, right? Like because later I could just configure a DNS solution, a different DNS solution, and point over to it, right? And I wouldn't even have to point my router. I could use a VM to test that, test a different DNS resolver, and make sure that it like we have parity, right? So the transition would be not too painful. So we can do Core DNS. I like Core DNS because it seems like a very simple file that can go in my home lab. Beautiful, or in my Git repo. That's lovely. This looks good because when DNS breaks, everything breaks. AXFR is how you do failover. Yeah, when DNS breaks, everything breaks. That is a scary thing for me. Okay, so the pipeline looks like DNS, step CA, and eventually let's encrypt when I want to onboard users, Kanidm. And then we can have users. Then we can do user management. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's write this up in our idea doc. It's looking like phase 0 is core DNS. Well, so yeah, phase 0 is core DNS. That'll be done in a micro VM that gets its own IP address, probably 10.10.10.3, maybe 4. I don't, because one of them's the AP. There's 10.10.10.1, that's my router. Then 2 is the AP. We'll just make it 5. Sure. Somebody should really make a hardened baseline ready to add services NixOS config for home lab. I mean, that's kind of what we're moving towards this way. That's one of the things that I was really excited about, right? Is if I have this set of Nix configs, they can be easily adapted to anyone's hardware with the help of an agent, right? And so if I make this public, then we're kind of building a Nix-based home lab that others can take on, right? And so I've been interested in, like, there's a project called Nix Router, which looks cool. I'm not ready to make that leap, that's for sure. But, you know, it's cool, right? So the more that we can do this well, not only benefits me and my learning, but also benefits anybody who comes across this, and they can adapt it and make it work for their home lab. So this is, that's the point of being a content creator, right? You make stuff that is helpful to others. Okay, so this, right? Core DNS, that'll be done in a micro VM that gets its own IP address, statically leased. Perfect Media Server is sort of one such project. That's nice. I should take a look at that. We'll configure a few reasonable entries. Then we can get onto step CA, then onto Kanidm. Right? Right? Give that back to me first as a... I think that's right. And then this gives us a nice point to stop at. And I mean, like, let's say we get DNS done well, and then we get certificates done well, and then we get user management done well. What's left? Of, like, I feel like I've been a bully. Not at all. Not at all. I think it was a very tough set of problems to solve today, right? And a lot of folks have a lot of experience working with this, and I'm not one of them, right? But we figured out a solution that I feel really good about, right? We've got, I do think the distinction between Let's Encrypt for kind of user-facing things and Step CA for internal stuff would be cool. DHCP, yes, backups. So after this, the next phase is backups and UPS. Those are the things that I'm like, we need a backup plan. I've got Backblaze is something I'm using. So we're going to figure out, I mean, we've got some level of redundancy and like safety in that this is all on Git, so that's nice. I've heard of Borg, so I'm looking forward to that. IMO Delta backups, kick-ass, nice. So backups and NUT for UPS things. I think that's the play. I think those are the things. And then we get to start doing apps, I think. Oh, and then the VPC stuff, right? Then that's when I want to get multiple sites going. Because also then I can bring this to my dad and say, here's how we thought how we can do this. God, I hate Nut. I'd rewrite it for the cost of someone giving me a new UPS. Uh, yeah, I don't know anything about Nut. All I know is I've got a UPS, and I need to get that shit in order. Core DNS in a micro VM departs from your idea. I don't care. I actually think it's defensible for this service. DNS is the foundation everything else resolves through, so kernel level isolation plus a clean dedicated IP is a sensible exception. Yes. Cool. Oh, and one other thing. I need to rehandle specs here. Core DNS on a micro VM. Step C. Then we do step CA. Deploy step CA as an nspawn container on Nasty. I might go micro VM for that too. Like, really core stuff feels micro VM-y to me. I don't know why. There's something about a VM that just feels more, yeah, you know? If you want to debug a damn light switch at 2 a.m., more home automation. That's down the road. Like right now, I've got Home Assistant and I got my lights plugged in, and that's been great. Ask yourself how Core DNS learns about new things you add. I thought it was just write it into the file. I thought Core DNS doesn't learn, right? It just text. That was my understanding. Done when curl. Okay, deploy step CI as nspawn container, step CI. I might do this in a micro VM. We'll see. How do you write it into the file? How do you write it into the file? Vim or Pi? I assume you have a core file, right? So I assume you update the core file, and then I'd have to push it to the micro VM or something like that. Like I'd push the Nix config, which contains the core file. Does that sound about right? Like over up here earlier, services.coredns config, right? So we probably have to relaunch, which I guess is like momentarily disruptive. I don't know how big a deal that is. That's a later issue. Next week, we'll learn more about DNS, and then I think we're ready to start building stuff up. Deploy Kanidm as an nspawn container on NASD. Leave cert for IDM Laundry Lab internal issued by step CA. Learn the dictionary, or learn the directory admin versus IDM admin, create person, and roll passkey. So, okay, how do you write it? So to add a service, you're going to define it as a container or VM. Then you'll SSH into the micro VM, edit the file, and restart core DNS. You don't have AXFR for failover. That is annoying. You're going to define it as a container or VM. Then you'll SSH into the micro VM, edit the file, and restart core DNS. And then I'll get kicked out, right? Because will no longer, for a moment, it won't be able to resolve, right? And then it stands back up if it's Okay, now I'm curious, right? Because this example has config as part of like the service. Oh, there's a problem, isn't it? Right? Because if it's in a VM, then the VM contains this thing. But I can push to it, can't I? I can say edit the core DNS, push that to Git, and then I can also push the builds to the Nix VM, right? I guess I haven't dealt with Nix VMs very much. I actually don't know what the experience is like. No, of course. These are good things to think about. I just haven't yet because I don't know. Like I didn't think about that. In my head I was like I'll just stand it, I'll just like the file will appear somehow and I'll restart it. Okay. Cuz yeah, CoreDNS made a lot of sense. Hmm. You can ask your AI about the flow. How will addresses living with services update core DNS without taking down DNS for the network? How will addresses living with services will addresses living with services update core DNS without taking down DNS for the network? Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Last question, and then I gotta go. Last one. Whoa, not you, Siri. Why is that taking so long to write this file? Interesting. Oh, whatever. Let that finish, and then we'll grab this question, and then we'll call it. Cool. Oh, man. These last two streams have been something. Oh, but we it's been pretty good. I mean, okay. The core attention to service gets dynamically allocated an address and wants to register a DNS name, but updating core DNS normally means editing the zone file and reloading, restarting core DNS, which serves DNS for the whole network. So a reload momentarily drops, delays queries. The file plugin reads a zone file on SIG hub. It reloads the zone file. Core DNS can reload zone files without a full process restart. It watches rereads on SIG hub. Configured reload plugin. There's a reload plugin. Okay. The deeper architectural, should DNS records be static files at all? Actually detailed. The file plugin reloads zone files on SIG hub. NixOS rebuild restarting the service equals full restart. And since it's a single static IP serving the net, a restart does momentarily drop answering. But core DNS restart is under a second, and clients have their own cache. Oh, can NixOS run on older Intel MacBooks? I think so. Oh, depends. I mean, I got Arch Linux working on a T2 MacBook, but that was a nightmare. Like, I would not recommend putting Linux on like the T1 or T2 MacBooks. Well, just the T2. I haven't dealt with the T1s. Um, older than that, I hear they're quite amenable to it. Static zone plus declared addresses that live with services need a stable known address so the Flakes zone file is updated at the same time as the host is defined. This is the single source of truth model. Core DNS never changes at runtime. You change it only when you change hosts. How do addresses change without downtime in this model? They rarely do. The zone is edited. I mean, I don't need there to be no downtime. etcd backend. Let's services register their own records via etcd keys. Eh. Records are dynamic. Okay. If you define hosts declaratively, don't let addresses change under you, reserve them. Then DNS is just a deploy time edit. Right. If you truly want dynamic self-registration, I don't really need that. Like, right, so I don't think it'll be a problem because I can afford minor downtime and I don't need like my phone to be part of the core DNS world. Right? Like it's fine if DHCP. I guess I don't know much about how. Okay. Add a to do. How are we handling DHCP? And that's the last thing. So next week, DNS, DHCP. We're going to dig further into that. And by the end of this, I'll know some things I didn't know before. No, not that. Not that kind of to do. A to do in the idea doc. We don't yet know how to deal with DHCP. Okay, I'll help you with it next time. Thank you, thank you. Much appreciated. I mean, I am excited though. This, I feel like I've done a lot of just faffing about and not really learning on stream. And I like honestly for the last year I really don't feel like I for a while I was feeling like I didn't make very much progress over the last year. But that's not true. I just found out a lot of ways not to do things. And it feels like now we're on a way to do things, to actually do things. And so even though there's not much that I've stood up over the last year, although even then, right? Home Assistant's on Proxmox. I've got a UPS now. I got the OpenSense router running. Both of my access points are on OpenWrt. I feel like it's kind of ridiculous for me to say I haven't achieved anything. It's just nothing user facing, right? It's all stuff that's made my life easier, more stable, more configurable. I've just been promising my friends a movie server for like 2 years. Which only serves Big Buck Bunny. Okay. All right, gang. That was stream. And my God, we learned a hell of a lot. I'm gonna sign off and go play Slay the Spire with my friends and maybe have a drink. So I will catch you all. I think I'll catch you next week. Hold on, it's Labor Day at some point, and I want to make sure that when that is. Labor Day's on the 7th. So next week I'll be here, and then the week after I'll be taking a day off. Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for the fun, for sticking with me while I trudged through all this new knowledge.